Hello, my name is Garvin, and I read things and prattle on about them on the internet for your entertainment. Today we're ending our look at the Perry Rhodan miniseries, Lemuria, with the novel number 6 entitled The Longest Night. So as I said before, and we'll say again, there are spoilers ahead, so if you'd rather read the book first and then rejoin us, now's the time to hit that pause button or even the stop button and come back once you're done. With that warning out of the way, let's turn to. The Longest Night returns us to the present day of the story, which is several thousand years in the future to us. It picks up with Perry Rhodan, Ikotola, and the other characters right where we left them at the end of Book 4, on a hostile planet that has thousands of beasts waking up after being artificially created in cloning tubes, on a planet whose ecosystem has been tampered with to make fast mutating and incredibly hostile to all life organisms that attack everything and everyone, including our heroes. And just to make things worse, there's also several automated factories that throughout this whole time have been creating weapons in spaceships so that the beasts, these over 10 feet tall, 4-armed, 3-eyed, bullet and laser-proof monsters who can tear apart a pickup truck with their bare hands, will also have enough firepower to sterilize planets by the dozen. Because Perry Rhodan does not do things small. And it's into all of this that Perry is marching down with his squad, because it turns out this is only one planet out of an unknown number that the beast from the Lemurian Beast War seeded and set up in advance to restart this war in the modern day of the book. And he needs to find out where these planets are, how many of them are they, and bring this information back to Terra so he can avoid the end of civilization and the possible genocide of all humanoid life. No pressure. Meanwhile, Levian Perron, the Lemurian immortal whose attempt to travel back to the beginning of the Lemurian Beast War was thwarted, has escaped from the planet. His plan in Book 4 was to go back in time with advanced technology that would let the Lemurians win the war with the Beast, which was about 50,000 years ago. The heroes opposed him because if he does that, he basically wipes everyone else out of existence, and let's be honest, most of us aren't willing to die to change something that happened tens of thousands of years ago. He manages to get off the planet and picks up one of his false identities as an Iconian naval officer and tries to lead the ships under his command off on a mission to try and find another way to head back to the past. He is not letting this go. He has been working on this for thousands of years. And he also tries to get the Iconian government to back him up on this, but instead they take him prisoner and tell him, no dice, he's going to have to live in the present like the rest of us poor schlubs. And he's going to have to work his way through that. We also have the storyline with Ion Lissos, a beast clone trooper. Yes, that's the name I'm sticking with. He's a beast, he's a clone, he's a trooper. He's having issues. He started questioning his mission of wiping out all Lemurian descended life. That also includes us. Because the things his elders are telling him aren't matching up with the evidence of his eyes and ears. The elders are actually beasts from the First War who kind of stuck themselves in stasis until they got the activation order. And the mismatch isn't helped by the fact that he takes a bunch of Terrans prisoner and finds that their behavior doesn't track with what he's been told about Lemurians and Lemurian descended life. It also doesn't help that he quickly comes to the belief that if the activation date for the war had been a week later, he might have been left to die in his tank. In fact, working through this in the story, he figures out that the bases this entire time have been making beast clone troopers, letting them grow to maturity in the tanks, and if they don't receive an activation order by a certain point, just kind of cuts off all life support and leaves them to die and rot in the clone tanks, where they then get flushed out and a new one gets made. And The realization that he could have just as easily have been left to rot without even given a chance at life by his elders, well, that is not a fact he takes with grace. Let me just put it that way. The Palanque and the Last Tour, the two ships that have been helping Perry Rhodan and his friends this whole time, are also attempting to break through the defenses of the Arsenal planet and rescue Perry Rhodan and their crewmates. And those ship weapons are a lot more effective than any weapons the Lemurians had. In Book 5, we got to see the Lemurian Beast War firsthand, and the Beasts were kind of tearing through the Lemurians like professional fighters going after a bunch of high schoolers who had just learned some karate. However, that's not happening this time, because instead of using energy weapons, the ships of Perry Rhodan's time used, as I understand it, they're weaponized teleporters that teleport bombs near or into enemy ships. This technology was developed long after the Lemurian War, so the Beast had no idea it exists, and ignorance in this case is not bliss. As a result, entire squadrons of Beast ships get utterly wrecked by a lightly armed science ship and a civilian prospector ship who's only carrying these weapons for the bare minimum self-defense. And I really like that. This is one of those things that's different from the norm, because usually what I see when I read stories like this is the ancient invincible army from long ago is able to walk over everyone and everything in the modern day with absolutely no problem. And it's really nice to see a story where instead of that, you get to see someone say to said invincible ancient army, hey, y'all have been out of touch too long. Let me introduce you to some exciting weapon developments from the business end. But let me get back to the story. Perry is rushing around trying to prevent massive fleets and armies from swamping galactic civilizations, because the Lemurians left behind a lot of different descendants, as I've mentioned before. The Arconians from the first Perry Rhodan book I reviewed with Cress and Thora, they're descended from Lemurians. The Iconians of this series and the Terrans of Earth, that's us, are all descended from the Lemurian Empire. Among others, there's a lot of other names that are thrown out in discussion in this book that I have no context for, so I'm assuming there are other human-related alien races. Even with the technology advantage of the weaponized teleporter, there is danger because the Beasts have a lot of numbers, they're fanatical, and they're relentless. Plus, they are smart enough to find ways to adapt to new technologies if given enough time. And if they're operating in large numbers from secret bases, they might get that time. Perry doesn't want that, and to be fair, in his place, I wouldn't want that either. So he's trying to find the location of these planets so that, well, the Beasts don't have enough time to build a counter-response to the teleporting bombs. Luckily for him, a Terran fleet does show up in this story and gives him the armed backup he needs to carry through with this mission. Perry's mission, however, is very much a race against time, and time is also a major preoccupation of Levian, who is coming to terms with the fact that he has spent thousands of years scheming, plotting, and working to go back in time, and that opportunity is gone. And he kind of falls apart at that realization and can only pull himself together to fight the Beast when he's given an opportunity to. It's also revealed here that he had a wife and a baby son who died in attacks from the Beast before he was given immortality, but I didn't really care for that. Not the idea that he lost family, that works fine, but I didn't like that this was only revealed in the last book, because it feels like someone is trying to jam in extra motivation at the last minute that's simply not needed. We didn't need that to believe in Leviathan's desperation to get back to Lemuria and save his people and save his society. He believes he's been given this immortality by the greatest hero of his people, and that's what he needs to do. We've been in his head for 3 books now. We shouldn't be finding out something that big about him in the last book without any foreshadowing at all. So That one just didn't sit well with me. Speaking of no foreshadowing, it's also revealed that Perry knew about the beast bases before he even came out here, and that was the real reason he was on the Palanquet, which I wasn't thrilled about that revelation either, because it kind of raises questions of, like, why did he bother with the space arcs? Why did he let himself get so diverted chasing Levian and all this other stuff? It doesn't quite make sense to me, because why is he on a civilian prospector ship if he's on a secret squirrel mission to find hidden arsenal planets from 50,000 years ago? Wouldn't it be better to take some sort of scout ship and use that? Maybe I'm overthinking it. Tell you what, Perry Rhodan fans, if you watch this, let me know what you think in the comments. Now, speaking of the space arcs, it's also decided to grant the Lemurians their own planets, several of them, let them settle and develop and create or continue their own culture without forcing them to mingle with anybody else if they don't want to. So, in a way, Levian has succeeded in preserving Lemurian culture, even if he's failed at stopping the war from ever happening or winning that war. In the end, he does achieve victory because the end goal of the beast was to wipe out Lemuria, and he has made sure that hasn't happened. So I'm going to put that in the win column for Levian, even if he might not totally agree with me. As for the book itself, it was fun to read. The plot was really fast-paced and kept moving. There's a lot of good action here, but I ended up feeling that this was the weakest book out of the series. Now, part of the problem is there are characters from earlier in the series that are just kind of unceremoniously shoved to the side, like the Lemurian Dimitri. She doesn't get any real closure to her character arc, and I'm left very unsure as to her future. Same for the Oconian historian Selena, who was really big in the first 3 books, and here she's there, but she just kind of, her story arc just kind of peters out. And this may be because the book series had a large cast of characters to start with and just kept adding more. For example, the Lemurian mutant Bark spent this whole book knocked out on the edge of death, and we only met him in book 4, and he of course did not show up in book 5 at all. So in book 6, the poor boy is just rendered into a plot device, and his character arc is left open without any closure as well. And yes, I did find that annoying. Now, you may be wondering how I feel about the series as a whole, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was well done. The series gave us very interesting characters that we didn't need to know too much about beforehand to get invested in. It does a good job of explaining the world as we interact with it, and it poses a lot of questions, but it also answers almost all of them. There is one question that was posed in this story that is not given 100% surefire answer, and that's who made Levian immortal in the first place and why did they do it? Both Ikko and Perry believe it was it or IT, I'm not sure which way I was supposed to say that, which they describe as a superintelligence of some kind in charge of the galactic cluster, and it did that to make sure Perry would be able to find the beast's hidden bases. But that feels like a wildly unsupported theory to me, because for this to work, so many things have to happen just precisely. And it'd be really a lot easier just to send someone who will lead Perry to one of these planets and let him get information that way. It doesn't help that I have no grasp on who IT or it, or however you say it, is, why it would do something like that, and what its relationship to Perry Rhodan is, because I haven't read anything else except the first classical Perry Rhodan novel and the first Neo Perry Rhodan novel. So I want you to keep that in mind. There are big gaps in my knowledge of the setting here, because I also refused to look things up while I was reading, because I wanted to see if I could understand enough of the series just by reading these books to make it worthwhile? And the answer to that is yes. This is the one big glaring question I have, and honestly, it's not that big of a deal to my enjoyment. The characters were interesting. There's not a lot of deep character work here because there's just too many characters to do that with. But what I saw was good. The dialogue is great. The action is fun. And I really found the setting kind of interesting. I'm not going to go back and try and hunt down the old Perry Rhodan novels because the last time they were published in English was the 1970s. So I'll likely go look at the Perry Rhodan Neo novels that have been translated to English because you can find those on Amazon real easy. And I'm just going to hope that more novels can be translated in the future so that more English speakers can get an experience with this setting. Hello everybody, Future Garvin here. Make a note in the calendar. This is the first time I've gone back and stuck in a additional thing after I've recorded a video, but I recorded this video before posting the video for book 5. It's just how it goes sometimes. And I mentioned I didn't really understand what the superintelligence referred to in the story was. Well, a rather helpful person who goes by the handle of DreamFox-DF6BG was kind enough to leave a comment explaining that for book 5. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. I talk about them later in like 20 seconds, but I did want to acknowledge that that was explained. Thank you, DreamFox, again, and, well, I'll just go ahead and let me finish the video. On that note, I think this is a good place to end this week's video. I hope you found this video informative, or at least entertaining. If you did, please leave a like, a comment, or consider subscribing. All of those help me in my eternal struggle against the dread Lord Algorithm. Terror be on his name. If you'd like a voice on the subjects of future videos, consider joining my Everwise patrons for $1 a month. There's a link in the description below. And speaking of patrons, I'd like to give a special thanks to Big Steve. As always, I appreciate you listening in, man. We bid a fond farewell this week, though, to Perry Rhodan and his interesting universe, at least for now. But I also want to thank DreamFox, who has been commenting on some of the videos and has shared some really great Perry Rhodan information. Thank you for that, DreamFox, and even though it's likely going to be a while before I cover more Perry Rhodan material, I hope you stick with me. Next week, though, we're going to talk about one of science fiction's earliest controversies. We're going to take a look at the Shaver mysteries with a video overview first, and the week after that, we're going to look at Volume 1, I Remember Lemuria, which is going to wrap up our extended series on Lemuria. I hope you'll join me, but until then, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and of course, keep reading.